Now we're going to meet Professor Trudy Gilgenast. She is an assistant professor at the University of Delaware. She teaches German there, and she's here to tell us about the history of the German community in Delaware. Professor Gilgenast, welcome to Folks Delaware.
Thank you, Bob.
What if I call you Trudy?
That's better, thank you.
Okay. Trudy, why did Germans first come to Delaware?
Well, originally they came way back with Peter Minuet, and that was back in 1638.
Hold on, I'm confused. Peter Minuet, he wasn't German, was he?
Yes, he was. He came under the Dutch flag, but he came from Basel, Germany.
I see.
And then he was the one, of course, who bought Manhattan.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
But, so there were various Germans around here in the very beginning, but the larger group came with the 1848 and 1870 group to Wilmington.
Big influxes at that time.
Right.
What brought about those influxes?
Primarily the economic and the political reasons for their coming to this area.
I see. Religious freedom, economic freedom?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And there were a lot of craftsmen and artisans who came primarily to the Wilmington area at that particular time and settled in the city here.
Now, did they settle in a specific neighborhood?
In the beginning, yes. Sort of the east side of what is today Wilmington, from Front Street to about 8th Street, and then probably east-west, Poplar to French. That was sort of a German neighborhood. But there was another smaller neighborhood on what is called Grubb's Place, and that was at the turn of the century. Approximately a dozen to a dozen and a half families lived in that area.
And where was that?
That was down further, close to what is today the area with the old Swedes church.
Ah, yes. Mm-hmm. Now, does the German community continue to exist today as a separate ethnic entity and geographically speaking?
No, not like some of the other ethnic groups. The German, there is not an area that you could call that today, no.
Of course, we do have clubs and churches and associations of Delawareans of German descent, for instance.
Well, of course, the largest and the oldest German club is the Delaware Sängerbund, and they started that in 1853. The Germans who came to this area, of course, worked hard, and one of the major businesses at that time was the beer brewing. So the Germans worked hard, but they also played hard. And through this particular club, which originated as a singing club, that was where they would get together to practice their traditions, but also to sing and to have a good time.
Did they make their own German brew?
Oh, sure, sure. I'm sure there were those who did their own, but there were about 4 major German breweries at that time.
Really?
Also
in Wilmington?
In Wilmington, oh yes. 4th Street was the area at various areas along 4th Street where you found those.
Now, in addition to this main group, there were other associations that since that time have sprung up?
Probably from the beginning of the Sängerbund, 1853, to the turn of the century, there may have been about 28 different clubs or groups. The Sängerbund being the oldest and the largest. There was also the Wilmington Turners, the Turngemeinde, which is still located today on one of the fairly original sites on Clayton Street. But today that's primarily Irish-American. The Turners being an athletic group, the Turngemeinde, which really stemmed from Germany as an athletic organization. Then, of course, you had not only the fun-loving social clubs, but then you also had the churches. There were, at that time, 3 German churches. That 1848 was the first one, and that was Zion Lutheran Church. Then you also had a Baptist church and the Sacred Heart, which is the only church on its original site today on Madison Street.
Now, what denomination is that?
That's Catholic.
So we had Lutheran, Baptist, and Catholic.
Catholic, right.
Were the Germans ever a political force in this state?
Yes, they somewhat connected with the Turner group. There was also the interest, and of course those that went participated in the various wars that we had. They were very interested in freedom, equality, and freedom. And there were, connected with the labor groups, there was a political aspect involved, yes.
I'm sure this may be difficult, but do you have any idea of the numbers of German Americans that were here in Delaware at different times?
I would say probably by the turn of the century in this area, maybe about 2,000, perhaps more. In the very beginning, I know there's an old city directory that the Delaware Sängerbund still has that dates from, I believe it's 1814. And there were in that 50 German heads of household. But there were only about 200, little over 200 people in Wilmington at that time. So I guess the turn of the century, about 2,000 families.
Now, the German-American community in Delaware had a birthday last year, a 300th celebration. Why don't you tell our viewers about that?
Not only the German community, but the entire United States had...
That's right.
And I was very surprised when I was doing the research on that to learn that 28% of the population of the United States is of German background, and that's a rather large percentage. We had a very small part in, this was a national celebration, actually a celebration across the ocean, because the culmination of the entire tricentennial took place on October 6th, last October 6th of '83 in Philadelphia. And I was present at that, and it was a very exciting event.
Now, you put together a booklet in connection with this celebration. I'm going to hold it up now. It's called Student Booklet, and it's been used in various levels of education, both from college down to 4th grade.
Well, this booklet was actually a supplement to the exhibit which we had at the Old Town Hall Museum in Wilmington on Market Street. And our exhibit was called Old Ways in the New World. And this particular booklet was a supplement so that we could encourage school groups and student groups to come in and to learn about the Germans in their own front yard, so to speak. And every student who came in got one of these booklets.
There's also a videotape, I understand, in addition to some of these booklets that are still available. Right.
The videotape was done then really as almost an afterthought, but we thought this, the artifacts that we had in this particular exhibit, we would never get them together again.
Now, this is a 14-minute videotape that are available for education groups and social groups and for whatever purpose.
Right. It is free. It is, I believe, a 3/4 inch, so you'd have to have the right equipment to use it, but it is available to any group, school groups, to use this.
How do groups get it?
Delaware Humanities Forum has a copy of it, and the Delaware Historical Society has a copy. If anyone would like to use it and has any difficulty, they could also contact me at the university. And we also have some of the booklets that would be available if there are groups that would be interested in this. This student booklet then really, from 4th grade on up to senior high school, gives them some supplementary materials on the Germans.
Well, thank you, Professor Trudy Gilgenast, for coming on Focus Delaware to tell us about the rich history of the German Americans in Delaware.